Hey guys, welcome back to another entitled neighbor story. In this video, an entitled neighbor claimed that he owns my forest property and then ended up bulldozing everything. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. So, a few years back I inherited a large stretch of protected redwood forest land. My grandparents left it for me when they passed away. It's been in our family for a long time. Since I was a little kid, I had loved roaming around in that forest. My grandparents noticed how much I loved it, so much more than my own parents, and they wanted me to be the one to take care of it when they couldn't anymore. Since it's redwood trees, it is protected, which means we cannot cut down the trees. Now onto why I am making this post. I have a wealthy neighbor who we will call Karen, and now you know where the story is going because we all know what Karens are. Anyway, this Karen was filthy rich and has this huge fancy estate next to my redwood forest. That place is like a mansion complete with a big sparkly swimming pool. I don't know where she got the money from, probably her multiple late husbands, but hey, those were just rumors that I had heard. Now, you would think she would be happy with having that paradise all for herself, but no, she was definitely not. Karen had always been eyeing my forest with this jealous look. She had asked me more times than I can count if I would love to just hand over the whole forest to her. She would advise me that I should leave the peaceful trees behind and head to the city for what she called a more fulfilling life. She never even asked to buy it or anything. Nope, Karen straight up wanted me to just give her my family's forest, the one I've loved since I was a kid and that I got from my late grandparents. I remember that the first time she told me this, I thought she was joking and laughed out loud. Then she said that she was not joking and was serious and wanted to look out for me. Yeah, I don't have such a bad life that I need someone like her to look after me, thank you very much. One morning, I woke up to a terrible racket, loud engines and the crashing of trees. I put on some decent clothes and rushed outside to find bulldozers tearing through my beloved redwood forest. Karen was there too, standing at a distance with a smile on her stupid face that I wanted to punch. I ran up to her and demanded an explanation. Karen, since this forest now belongs to my estate, I'm making some changes to it. She said it so casually and with so much confidence that I got silent for a second. Like, what do you mean you had taken over my land? Me, this forest belongs to me, not to you. So stop this BS right now. Karen, I gave you many chances to hand it over to me, but you didn't. Now I've taken it over and you can do nothing about it. Me, like hell, I cannot do anything. Did she really want me to be okay with the fact that my family's forest was now a part of her fancy estate? I threatened Karen with calling the police, though it was less of a threat and more of a promise. Karen, call them if you want, but they will do nothing. You don't know the ways of this world yet. You cannot do anything to me, so it will be better for you to pack your bags and move on. I swear, the audacity of this Karen was making me want to genuinely punch her, but I knew it would only turn out bad for me, so I withheld. Instead, I dialed the emergency number, hoping that the police would intervene and hopefully push this psycho Karen into jail, or at least slap her with hefty fines that would drain her bank accounts. When the officers arrived, I poured out my distress, explaining how Karen had taken over my land without any right and didn't have the permit to cut down my redwood trees. Karen then gave them some documents claiming how the land was actually hers. I had hoped that she would be called out for her lies, but to my disbelief, the police dismissed my concerns, saying that if Karen owned the land, she could do whatever she wanted with it. Me? But she does not own the land. It's mine, I inherited it from my grandparents. Officer, but these papers say otherwise. Maybe you signed on something you shouldn't have. Now don't make a big deal out of it. What the hell? I was so confused and lost at that time. I then tried to explain that cutting down redwood trees required permits, that they were protected, but it fell on deaf ears. The police seemed uninterested in the legalities of the situation, and at that point I was so sure that Karen had bought them or something. Among many rumors I had heard about her bribing in connection with the political figures was also one of them. So police told me not to disturb them with this stupid case anymore if it wasn't their job, and then went away. Karen too eventually went away with her bulldozers, but she promised that she would be back the next day and I better stay out of her way then, or she would make sure I am kicked out of this city. Frantically, I began filing an emergency injunction, hoping it would put a stop to the destruction of my redwood forest and do something about my ownership. But nothing came of it. It seemed like Karen had too much money and influence to ignore that order and just continued with her bulldozing my forest. It was also so annoying how she refused to listen to me about the importance of these trees. Like, okay, you don't know a damn thing about redwood trees and all of this is probably some sick power trip to you, but at least listen when someone is explaining it to you. Do you really need to harm these trees to prove your power or whatever? These people are so egoistic because they have never seen the consequences of their actions. My parents were also traveling to my house after I told them about everything that was happening, and they advised me to contact environmental protection agencies, and they might be the only ones that Karen had not thought of bribing and might not be as prone to corruption. A very low probability in this economy, but I had no other choice anyway. Thankfully, the Environmental Protection Agency acted swiftly, sending out a team of environmental experts to assess the damage caused by Karen's actions. As they began their assessment, documenting the devastation and calculating the environmental impact, I called for the police again, hoping that this time they would be forced to take decisive action against Karen's illegal activities. However, Karen, sensing the approaching legal consequences, attempted to turn the tables by threatening to sue me for harassment, what she claimed was her property. I told her to go ahead with her threats and that we could settle it in court. It was clear to me that her attempts to intimidate were just a desperate move to avoid facing the consequences of her actions. The environmental experts detailed the destruction of the redwood forest, highlighting the irreversible damage to the ecosystem caused by Karen's reckless actions. This, combined with the aerial photos, conclusively proving the land boundaries meant Karen had no ground in the court. She did try to throw a curveball by suing me for harassment, which made the case unnecessarily wrong. I think she hoped that I would back down under all the stress and financial burden, but I knew that if I persisted for a little longer, the case would definitely be won by me. And that is exactly what happened. Since all her witnesses and evidence for the harassment accusation turned out to be false, that point was shut down and the judge delivered a decisive verdict against Karen. To atone for the irreversible damage she caused to the protected redwood forest, Karen was ordered to pay a hefty sum of $1 million in damages and fines. By ignoring legal protections and bullying with wealth, Karen crossed into criminal territory, warranting additional 5-year prison term for deforestation of protected lands. Also, the forest was restored under my ownership, so that was a relief for me. And here, ripe stars, at some point I really hope that people get to know about tree law and how expensive it can be if you mess with the trees of others. I do hope that this Karen learns a lesson in prison. Anyway, the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. Throwaway for obvious reasons. I, 24 male, and my wife, 24, recently had our daughter in July. She is the best thing to ever happen to my wife and we couldn't be more thrilled to have our little bundle of joy. However, she recently got sick while staying with her grandparents, my in-laws, while my wife and I took a trip for work. For context, my in-laws are really big into LifeWave X39. It is some kind of patch that supposedly helps regrow stem cells by reflecting light rays back into your body, allowing your body to produce more stem cells to fight off diseases and sickness. If you ask me, it sounds like snake oil, and my wife agrees, calling it a pyramid scheme. The only way to get said patches is by spending well over $1,000, and then you're tasked with selling the patches yourself. It is essentially some multi-level marketing product where the more patches you sell, the more money you make, falling right in line with my wife's comparison to a pyramid scheme, but MLMs are somehow legal. Well, anyway, I've tried doing research on X39 and the only comments I've seen praise said product are brand new accounts never used before or after, or their entire profile is dedicated to shilling out for LifeWave X39. In my own research, they appear to just be overpriced stickers. They contain no medication, no special UV rays or anything of the sort. They are literally just an overpriced sticker with an air bubble. But my wife and I have made it very clear that we wanted no part in X39, nor did we want our daughter to have it. Even if it is fake, we wanted no part in it, and on the off chance it did something, I did not want our daughter to be used as their lab rat or guinea pig. Now, before we left our daughter with my in-laws, we provided them with some infant medication, just in case she got sick. Can never be too safe, you know? Well, we returned home from the work trip early because our daughter was not getting any better, so we picked her up and went home. We were going to give her a bath, and in the process of taking her jacket off, we found an X39 patch on her arm. Upon finding it, we immediately called her parents and demanded to know why she had a patch on her. Her parents tried saying that it is safe for babies, we even ordered the ones for ages 7 and younger, and that it is practically medication. Their words, which still did not answer our question, so my wife checked the go bag and the Motrin we gave them while it was used, not used very much at all though. Her parents tried claiming that someone else in their group or whatever gave it to their son and they got better in a week. The point is, we did not buy it, nor did we care. We have made it abundantly clear that we wanted nothing to do with X39, and we didn't want our daughter to be a part of it. However, they failed to listen. My wife was on the phone with them for over an hour, and while I don't know the exact length the conversation went to, I know it at least ended with her screaming, "Going to see my daughter again, and if you attempt to come to my house, we will call the police," before hanging up. That was 3 days ago, and we have had several missed calls from family members, her parents, her siblings, and even family friends all saying that we overreacted and that they were just trying to help. Maybe we overreacted, but we wanted nothing to do with that, and despite making it clear, they went against our wishes and did it anyways. And instead of giving my daughter actual medication, they tried to give her some placebo patch. Her parents tried claiming that we are stopping them from seeing their only grandchild over something so small. So Reddit, do you think OP is the a-hole here or not? I would say definitely not the a-hole, and if that was my kid, I would never let these grandparents see the grandchild again. They seem absolutely insane. But anyway, maybe that would be an overreaction on my part, not sure. Let me know what you think about it. Comment number 1 said, not the a-hole, they will never see your child without supervision again. The problem is not the patch on itself, and while it's totally BS, the problem is that your daughter was sick and rather than following your instructions on how to take care of her, they choose to use their own BS method. They are rejecting your parental authority unfairly, breaking your trust, and are now surprised that there are consequences. They are the same kind of grandparent that are told of nut allergies but still give peanut butter to their grandchild. Because it is not that serious, and then got all surprised Pikachu face when parents need to go to the ER because of allergy reaction after the visit. Comment number 2, the fact that they don't see at all what they did wrong and insist it was helpful shows that they will absolutely do it again and just put forth an effort to hide it next time. I would personally go no contact for this, Jesus Christ. They are willing to put MLM scheme products in or on her, and that is just an immediate no-go, and the lack of remorse is crazy. Comment number 3, not the a-hole, most of that crap peddled by MLMs are not FDA approved and there could be anything in them which could then be absorbed by your child. At best, it's the equivalent of sugar water, and at worst had harmful ingredients that could have long-term negative impacts on your child. Update to the story. About a month ago I made this post ranting about my in-laws' weird obsession with, for a lack of a better term, cult regarding stem cell regeneration through patches, which clearly is not a real thing. So there's been some development on that end, and while I am confident things will likely end here, I wanted to give a quick update for those who may have been curious. I'm writing this on the toilet at work, so don't mind the rushiness of it all. After my wife essentially cut ties with them and we all received a million phone calls and text messages from family and friends, things quieted down for about a week or 2. We started having my sister watch our daughter instead when we had to work. We have not had another out-of-town trip since the initial post, however. Through those couple of weeks, we never really heard anything beyond a couple of supposed crap-talking posts on Facebook complaining about us, but I cannot seem to find the posts anymore. Anyway, we thought things were probably hopefully gonna end there, but boy, were we wrong. And this is quite the jump from the last post. My wife and I were visited by CPS about 2 weeks ago or so, after they received concerning calls about supposed child abuse and negligence within the household. Of course, nothing like that ever happened, and the caseworker was very quick to see that. We had asked who reported her, and while she couldn't say, we had a suspicion it was from her parents. We were completely helpful and cooperative with the caseworker, and after she left that night, my wife called her mom up and asked her if she's the one who called CPS on us. Surprisingly, her mother took full accountability, but, not so surprisingly, tried to spin it around in her favor, claiming that she did it for our own good, because our daughter was sick and she wasn't getting any better when she was there, so clearly we were doing something awful as parents. Kids get sick, it happens. But they are also extreme anti-vaxxers. Not just for the pandemic virus, I mean everything, from even as something as trivial as the flu shot. And yet they are willing to shell out thousands of dollars for some supposed stem cell regeneration sticker. The damn hypocrisy and irony in their BS is absolutely unmatched. My wife did not really know how to react to that, so she basically told her mom to go F herself and she wants nothing to do with her again. I know I saw a few comments on the last post saying maybe we shouldn't have cut them out entirely, but now I'm starting to question why we did not cut them out years ago, before our daughter was even a thought in our heads. About a week after the first audit, my mother-in-law showed up to our house on my day off while my wife was at work and essentially demanded to see our daughter, forcing her way into our home by pushing past my arm. And by the way, ripe stars, in that moment I would have instantly called the police. Anyway, when I told her to get the hell out of my house and that she had no business marching in there like that, she essentially told me that I'm unfit to be a parent because I am depriving my daughter of help she desperately needed. Because she is clearly a very sick child. And by the way, my daughter is perfectly healthy right now, and in fact she has had no stiffy nose and no high temperature, just nothing. Anyway, I told my mother-in-law straight up that she was batshit crazy. I went off on her about how she lied to us, went against our wishes, and had the audacity to call and lie to CPS and then show up at our house unannounced and uninvited and march herself inside. As well as, of course, everything about her X39 LifeWave BS. We argued there for a while before I finally got so fed up, I told her to leave my house before I called the police. She stormed out of the house and in true Karen fashion said, "This isn't over," before slamming my door. I immediately called my wife, who was of course irate. The following morning we filed a restraining order at the courthouse from her mom and dad because they are clearly not in their right mindset. The caseworker who had to audit us a few more times as per their guidelines over the past 2 weeks, and yesterday was her last day, where she informed us that we are doing good and she is sorry for the trouble they caused. We kept her up to speed on the LifeWave crap and the showing up unannounced and the restraining order, though she couldn't really take a side. She seemed apologetic though. Anyway, my wife and I are pretty livid. We started looking at houses in another state to get as far away from her in-laws as possible. Our company has offices out there, so it's entirely possible we could just be transferred, so we are crossing our fingers that all goes well and the restraining order gets filed soon enough, and we will get a place across the country so that this will hopefully be my last update. And here, ripe stars, it seems like indeed this was OP's last update, so I guess that the entitled insane grandparents did not bother them any further. Fingers crossed that it will stay like this for the near future. Honestly, if you have in-laws like this, you don't even need enemies anymore. The next one is titled Consequences for Karen. I used to have a veteran's disability pension, VDP, for a hearing defect. It's now merged with my state pension. It was small and back home was paid annually. However, I moved to the UK and this pension was still paid by my government, but now administered by the UK DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, who paid it fortnightly. Some years ago, I was entitled to a disability allowance DA because of various issues. At the time, I was diagnosed with diabetes but was trying to control it with diet, so I got called into the local job center for an interview. Unfortunately, I had a Karen for an interviewer. I'm on the spectrum, but I am high functioning. This means that I don't suffer fools gladly and I can be very rules bound. Firstly, she questions why I hadn't declared the VDP as part of my earnings. Well, I had, but it was in another part of the form. Then she said that I couldn't have diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine and I was telling porkies. She would not allow my claim. Now, the DA claim had nothing to do with my diabetes, however, she was stupid enough to put in her letter of rejection that I hadn't had diabetes because I wasn't taking any medicine for it. She also said that they would no longer pay my VDP, and I sent a copy of the letter to my High Commission, who said don't worry, they would deal with it. I then handed a copy of the letter to my doctor, who was incensed. She complained to the DWP asking about Karen's medical qualifications. So I got asked to have another interview about 1 PM on a certain day with the Karen. I said that I could not guarantee to attend on that day as I had another appointment that morning. The message back from the Karen was if I didn't attend, my claim would be refused. So, going with the flow, I said that I would try to attend, but I might be a little bit late. So I have my morning appointment, go home, change and toddle off to the job center. I get there on the dot of 1 PM only to find that the Karen had booked an interview room on the first floor instead of the ground floor. There is no lift, and to cut a long story short, it took me nearly 15 minutes to have my sorry ass up those stairs, in the end being helped by this guy in a suit who asked why I was trying to get to the first floor. I told him that I had an interview and that the Karen who was seeing me chose the room. So I get to the room and Karen says, "You're late. I'm refusing your claim unless you have a very good reason." So I said to her, "Well, my day has been interesting. You were warned that I had an appointment this morning and because of it I might be late." Karen, "I want you to tell me about this appointment and exactly what happened to make you late." Me, "I turned up at the appointment this morning, took my clothes off and then had two nice young ladies slather my meat and two veg with lube. They then proceeded to do things to said meat and to veg. They then got me to lie down on my side facing the wall and one of them proceeded to stick her fingers up my rear." Karen, "How dare you talk such filth in front of me? Your case is closed." Suit guy who was listening out of sight, "Excuse me, Karen, but you did ask him to tell you about this appointment and exactly what happened to make him late." Suit to me, "How did your prostate examination go?" Me, "More tests unfortunately." Suit, "And was that the reason you were late?" Me, "No, the stupid Karen was being vindictive and interviewed me on this floor instead of the ground floor. She knew my claim was because I had breathing problems and couldn't climb stairs. I think she would have claimed that as I made it to the first floor, I was lying and refused the claim." Suit, "I think you're right." Suit guy to Karen, "You will approve his DLA claim as I had to help him up the stairs and based on my observations he qualifies. And you and your manager will report to me tomorrow at 9 AM in my office to explain your actions. If you're late, you'll be terminated." Karen, with a very white face, "Yes, sir." Turns out he was an area director that the DWP had sent in to investigate the high level of complaints about that job center. It also turns out that a complaint from a high commissioner about a breaching an international agreement is a big deal for the DWP. Who knew? And yeah, Ripe Stars, it's really good to see that Karens face consequences for their actions not only in America, but internationally and even in the UK. What a sight to behold. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.